Sunday, we began the season of Advent, which is the beginning of the church year. And one symbol that you'll often see during Advent is the Advent wreath. You see it in the Emerson lobby, you see it in your homerooms, and you'll see it at all your parishes. Each week, you light a candle to symbolize the waiting and the preparation for Christ's coming at Christmas. And so this wreath is known as a sacramental. A sacramental is an item that we use that can help us focus in our prayer, that can draw us deeper into prayer. Other items that are examples of sacramentals are rosaries, we use statues or images, stained glass that help us focus during our prayer. A symbol or a sacramental that is often used during Advent is an Advent calendar, which counts down the days to Christmas. And sometimes it's included with like a little scripture verse, but oftentimes it's just an excuse to eat a piece of chocolate. And Advent calendars have become so commercialized, and a lot of them have lost their religious context. Another sacramental during Advent that maybe you've never seen before is the Jesse tree. We've been praying with the Jesse tree this Advent. If you've listened to the morning and afternoon prayers, it talks about a symbol or an ornament that is placed on the Jesse tree. The purpose of the Jesse tree is to help us count down the days to Christmas, but it also allows us to trace the coming of Jesus into the world all the way back to the story of creation. The Jesse tree tradition first began in the Middle Ages. So back then, a lot of the common people didn't know how to read. So churches would teach the people by creating images and put them on their stained glass in the churches to teach the stories of Scripture. But eventually, the people would go home and recreate the salvation history in their own homes. And they would create symbols of all of the prophets and the covenants that God made with his people that led up to the story of Jesus. And so it's called a Jesse tree because it comes from the scripture verse Isaiah 11:1 that prophesied the coming of the Messiah. And it said, "But a shoot shall sprout from the stump of Jesse, and from his roots a bud shall blossom." This foretold the coming of Jesus Christ, and the Jesse tree traces the lineage of Jesus all the way back to creation. Jesse trees can look different, but typically it's a tree with no leaves because the scripture talked about the stump of Jesse and that the Messiah would be the one to bear the fruit. I encourage you to listen to the morning and afternoon prayers and pay attention to the scriptures. Check out the symbols or the ornaments that are placed on the trees. There's a tree in Emerson lobby for the high schoolers. There's a tree in the middle school lounge. Check that out and see how God has been preparing the earth for the coming of Christ to save us from sin and death since all the way from the beginning of time. And because we're not in school on the weekends, we're going to read the symbol for Saturday on Friday afternoon and the one from Sunday on Monday morning so we can continue our countdown through Advent. One last thing you should know about sacramentals. These are not required to live out your faith or to practice your faith. They simply are tools to help you grow closer to God, draw deeper into prayer. So the Advent wreath, the Jesse tree, the rosaries, the images, those are all things that can help you. So help find a way that maybe you can get into a better prayer life or a better relationship with Jesus. So I encourage you to take advantage of the prayers this Advent season. Maybe scripture will speak to you in a way that you've never heard before. The Jesse tree shows how God has been preparing the world for Christ long before anyone realized it. When you look at your own life, where can you see hints that God might be preparing you for something? Through challenges, friendships, talents, or opportunities.